What's up, everybody? It's me, Jason McIntyre. He is Colin Cowherd. No Carissa today. Thanksgiving special. Talk the line. Colin, how you doing, man? We didn't have a great Sunday in the NFL, but we don't need to talk about our records, right? That's kind of irrelevant.
Well, it's been a weird year. I've done a lot of 4-1 and a lot of 1-4, so I'm 1-3 heading into tonight. I have the Bucs. I just don't know what I'm going to get with the Rams without Andrew Whitworth, where I think the Bucs, I think offensively they're kind of figuring out what they are. I think I really felt that last week. So I think it's going to be around the number. I thought it was, I think I told you this last week. The numbers were really good last Monday. Thursday, Friday, the good numbers all got worse. So it was not outside of Philadelphia. You know, Philadelphia losing surprised me, but, everything else is it's the NFL,
Yeah. We'll dive deeper into Monday Night Football later in the show, give out a prop bet. Before we get to the games, don't forget to download and play the free-to-play Fox Super 6 app. Why? Of course, 8 people split $1 million yesterday, folks. How about that? They picked the outcomes of just 6 games, so make sure to sign up and play for $50,000 during Washington-Dallas on Thanksgiving. Should be a good game. Both teams coming off a victory. And you can play that every Sunday through the end of the season. All right, Colin, it's time to reveal exclusively here on Talk the Line the Week 12 gambling lines. Colin, here is the board. And before you go, I will just say this. I count 8 road favorites this week, okay? And if Las Vegas becomes a favorite in Atlanta, that's going to be 9. That is a shocker to me. But do you see anything on the Week 12 slate that jumps out at you?
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City only -2.5 at Tampa. Tampa will be in a short week, and Tampa's going to be back-to-back very emotional games with the Saints. And then Carolina was a bounce back, and then the Rams. So I'd take Kansas City -2.5 at Tampa. Weather's not an issue. That feels like a pretty solid side. I'd take Kansas City there.
Yeah, it could be a Super Bowl preview, of course, the game in Tampa this week and then the Super Bowl in Tampa. All right, Colin, let's get to game 1. It's the night game on Thanksgiving, Baltimore at Pittsburgh. This is a great game, a rematch from earlier this season. The Steelers won that game, but Baltimore dominated statistically, had over 450 yards. Now, the line here is interesting, Colin. It is 3.5, total of 46, but we do have some breaking news on this. A couple Baltimore Ravens tested positive for COVID. Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins, their 2 leading running backs, they will not be eligible to play Thursday. They tested positive for COVID, so it will be Lamar Jackson and the Gus Bus. Now, Colin, the Ravens rushed for 265 yards in that earlier meeting. What killed them was Lamar Jackson with 4 turnovers. Do you have an early lean here? Steelers favored by 3.5 at home.
Well, I think the news that came on just before we came on the air about Baltimore's running backs makes me want to take Pittsburgh. If not, this game is always tight and low scoring. I would have taken Baltimore plus 3.5. But now you're going to be heavily relying you're going to ask Lamar to carry more of the load, and he's struggling. So I think this is one of these COVID moments where I think the line will go up. I think Pittsburgh is going to be a bigger favorite within 24 hours. So I take the Steelers. Anything under 5 now, I'd probably take the Steelers.
Let me ask you, Colin. Lamar Jackson made some comments after the loss to Tennessee. By the way, that was a game they led 21-10 in the second half, blew it. They got destroyed in the fourth quarter overtime, outscored 17-3. But Lamar Jackson almost sounded defeated. I don't know if you picked up on that. I heard some of the herd today. But Lamar was like, they wanted it more than we did. Like, what are you talking about? You guys are 14-2 last year. You're the reigning MVP. He's got the shoulders slumped. I know you like the body language, but Colin, the Ravens are outside the playoffs right now, looking in, and now they face the undefeated Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, they have a young quarterback struggling, can't break through this wall. And, it's not like, they're losing. Tennessee's a real football team. They're on the road. So their schedule now is getting really tough. They didn't have a lot of big road games, but to play the Titans and the Steelers back-to-back, those are really physical football teams. So, this is the NFL, and I just think if you now you have COVID losses in the backfield, you're a running team. I still think, we tend to over-dramatize everything on Monday. They did lead a really good team by 11. But in the end, their reality is they're struggling to kind of figure out offensively what they are. It wasn't just a week ago they had a great second half against the Colts. So let's not over dramatize it. But I think the COVID situation at running back is a crusher. Yeah. That's really going to be punitive to their running game.
And the Steelers, by the way, their season win total, Colin, 9.5. They already broke it. We're not even in December. Final note, Ronnie Stanley obviously will not play. He was injured in that Steelers game, out for the season. Let's monitor the defensive line injuries for the Ravens. That's going to be important. All right, on to game 2, Washington at Dallas. Colin, this is a rematch from, about a month ago. Remember, that was the game Andy Dalton got knocked into next week. Bad concussion. Then he tested positive for COVID. Well, Dalton returned yesterday against the Vikings, and I was pretty impressed. 3 touchdown passes. Dallas with a big win outright as underdogs. Now, they go into this game against Washington favored by 3. Zeke Elliott just had his first 100-yard rushing game of the season. Dallas at home. There will be fans in Jerry World. Any early lean here on Dallas favored by 3?
Yeah, Dallas has played really well back-to-back weekends. It does feel like the line's a little inflated in Dallas's favor because, people tend to, feel Dallas is always better than they are. I would probably take Washington +3. I think it's a really close, low-scoring game. It's got a 24-23 feel to it. So when you get, and I just think it's going to be low-scoring, and that's probably too many points. I think we're getting a little high on Dallas. They narrowly beated a Minnesota team. In Minnesota, Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook had really good games. So this is still a problematic defense. I'd probably take Washington.
Yeah, a quick note on Washington. This defense is highly rated, but due to the opponents they've played, the numbers I think are inflated. Colin, I watched Joe Burrow because I was on the Bengals like an idiot Sunday. Joe Burrow went up and down the field 4 times in the first half, moving the football. It's like, the kicker missed a couple of field goals, missed an extra point. Then Burrow goes down and Washington gets the easy win. But I don't know about Alex Smith, man. He's fallen behind 20-3 to the Giants, fell behind 24-3 to the Lions. I don't know. I don't know if you buy into the payback and the revenge, but Andy Dalton, he could perform well here at home against Washington.
Well, Andy Dalton on a bye week, they had time to get things right. Andy Dalton is a top 5 backup quarterback in the league. Nobody wants to admit this, but Andy's been around the league. He can read a defense. He doesn't have much of an arm, but he's efficient. And I think Dallas, when they had time to get it right, gave him decent protection. Now, Washington's defense is much better than the Vikings, and the pass rush is significantly better. This is going to be a low-scoring 24-23, and I just take the points.
I like it. Great game on Thanksgiving. All right, let's get to game 3. Another rematch. The Tennessee Titans go to Indy. Now, Colin, this is one we were head-to-head this week in Colts-Packers. We can get to that shortly. But all of a sudden, the Colts getting tons of respect in the market. They are 3.5-point favorites at home against Tennessee. High point total here, 49.5. Colts won the first meeting. It was a Thursday night affair, and they obliterated Tennessee in the second half, shut them out, ran away with it. In the earlier meeting, Tennessee Titans opened as the favorites. All the money was on the Colts. And now the Colts getting over 3 points here. Divisional rematch, Colin. Where are you leaning?
Well, the hook, I'd probably go Tennessee +3.5. Now, I will say this. Tennessee doesn't have much of a pass rush, so Phillip Rivers will be comfortable. Michael Pittman's emerging as a real force. Jonathan Taylor played pretty well. The Colts are a young team that they've got a lot of character. They don't have any quit. And at 49.5, Fox Bet is telling you there's going to be some points in this game. Phillip Rivers is going to be comfortable, and he's playing pretty good football right now. He had a couple of tip passes yesterday, but he made some really good throws in the second half. This is one I'd probably stay away from. I would probably lean Tennessee. It's a little too much respect for the Colts, who I still think are a young football team. They can make mistakes. They made a ton of mistakes yesterday late against Green Bay. It's a little too much respect. And let's be honest, Tennessee, the way they're built for Thanksgiving football. They'll pound it. It's time of possession. I would take the Titans, but with some reluctance.
I think you're onto something with Michael Pittman. Colin, this offense looks totally different with him, the rookie, the big kid. I mean, he looks like a stud. He's like 6'5", running free, because they're used to the 2 tight end sets. Frank Reich loves that. Let's just play smash mouth football with our offensive line. And I got to say, like, they looked really sharp moving the football against the Packers. I do want to ask you, Colin, about that Colts defense. They shut out Aaron Rodgers for nearly the entire second half. I mean, I don't want to go overboard, but I was stunned by what the Colts were able to do to Rodgers in the second half.
Well, they also had a 14-play drive and a 10-play drive, and in both drives, the ensuing Packer drive was 3 and out. So I think some of that is Aaron Rodgers sat on the sidelines for long stretches, and they got totally out of their rhythm. And by the time they did, the Colts had scored 13 points. So is it the defense or was it the running game that just they played keep away? Aaron sat there the whole second half. Every time they took a picture of Aaron, he was on the sidelines. So I like their defense, but I think the inactivity, the scarcity of opportunities for Green Bay really got them out of rhythm in the second half.
And I know you mentioned Rivers. Quick note, he did get banged up late in that game. I think he came out for a couple plays. No concern, though, right, for Rivers? I mean, this is a guy who never misses games ever.
I actually like Jacoby Brissett.
Oh.
In the red zone, I like when they sub out Phillip Rivers inside the 10 and put in Jacoby Brissett. The Colts have not been a great team inside the 10 this year. They've settled for a lot of field goals. So I like Brissett when they get close because Phillip can't move the ball. He's unathletic and everybody drops into coverage. So the Colts are a real team, but I think Tennessee's too real not to give them the hook.
Yep. All right, let's move on to game 4. And this is maybe the game of the weekend, potential Super Bowl preview. Kansas City Chiefs. I'm seeing favored by 2.5 in Tampa. Obviously, that means, you're not even giving the home Bucs, which will have fans there, a field goal. Colin, this is a phenomenal game. I do want to say, like, everybody had the Chiefs destroying the Raiders. And I don't know if that was more about the Raiders, but they were in that game with Kansas City. Kansas City's defense twice this season against the Raiders has just gotten destroyed. They just can't stop the Vegas Raiders. I mean, does that mean Tom Brady's going to move the football easily? Any early thoughts here?
Well, Andy Reid's going to get an extra day to prepare because the Bucs play on Monday night. I like Andy Reid. I think they have a quarterback and coaching edge in Kansas City. I'd swallow the 2.5 and take the Chiefs. I think I'd probably take the over. That's a pretty big, 53 is a pretty big number, but I like the Chiefs. This is one of the better plays of the week. I'd like the Chiefs here. Then again, I like the Chiefs last night.
I was going to ask you about the Chiefs. Like, when I watched that game against the Raiders gave them new looks, and the Chiefs had one play over 20 yards, and it was that final touchdown pass to Kelsey. Everything else was short, dink and dunk. It scares me that Andy Reid and Mahomes can beat you so many ways.
Well, and also remember, the Raiders get to see the Chiefs twice a year.
Yes.
So this Tampa defense, this is going to be the first and last time unless they meet in the Super Bowl. There is an advantage sometimes. The Raiders know the Chiefs personnel. They play it twice a year. They got their ears boxed the first few times they faced Mahomes, but now they're more comfortable with what Patrick can do and can't do. So I wouldn't take too much. I mean, the Chiefs defense has given up 18 a game, except to the Raiders, and they're giving up 35 a game.
Right.
But sometimes divisional rivals, they know your clock, your temperature, they know your personnel. So I try to not take too much from divisional upsets or divisional rivalries.
Yeah, all right, let's get to game 5. And this is the one game that kind of, I think I'm probably going to end up betting later today. It's the LA Chargers visiting the Buffalo Bills. Now, Buffalo, coming off a bye, is favored by 6. Buffalo, favored by 6. Buffalo with no defense, favored by 6. Total points on this one, 53.5. Chargers and Anthony Lynn, they beat the Jets Sunday, but they do not cover a big number. Chargers and Justin Herbert, all he does is set records, Colin. Let's just hand him the Rookie of the Year award now. He is unbelievable. Where are you on Chargers going across country to play the Bills? And I should add, weather does not appear to be a factor. No snow in the forecast.
This is one of my favorite bets of the year. I'll take Buffalo -6. I love the Bills in this spot. Earlier this year, I had the Packers over the Texans. I called it my bet of the year. I really like Buffalo here. First of all, good coaching staffs take advantage of extra time. So Buffalo's going to be healthy. They've got extra time. They're also a very good home team. And the Chargers, we know the Chargers do a nice job preparing. They're a very good first half team. But they've lost a lot of leads, and that's because they don't have their pass rushers healthy. And that means when they have these leads and they go into a prevent, they offer no resistance to quarterbacks. I like Buffalo. I think they have a coaching edge here. I'm going to take Buffalo, swallow the points, and I think they win by 10.
Big coaching edge. You're right. Now, I was initially looking at the Chargers, Colin, simply because I like Herbert as a dog here. What he was doing against the Jets, it was easy. It's going to be easy against Buffalo. My question is the Chargers defense. How do you let Joe Flacco shred you up and down the field? Like, Josh Allen is very good against bad defenses.
Again, they've got injuries on the Chargers D-line, so they have very little pass rush. And they've drafted well, Brandon Ingram and Joey Bosa. It's not their fault. They just had injuries.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of next year. I get Herbert with another year experience. I get my edge rushers back. So I think the Chargers, it's not a talent issue. They got banged up at the wrong spot. It's why they play well early and bad late. They can't get to opposing quarterbacks.
Buffalo has played, I saw this stat. When they played the game, they played 5 this season against teams that were top 5 in offense. They've given up, like teams like Seattle and Arizona, they've given up on average 454 yards and 31 points per game. That Buffalo defense, I don't know. All right, let's get to game 6. The Arizona Cardinals at the New England Patriots. This is a long travel spot for the Cardinals. Now, they're off the extra time, having played Seattle on Thursday. Arizona, 2.5-point favorites at Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Obviously, the Patriots coming off a tough loss. Deshaun Watson took them to school. It was ugly. Patriots now have a big uphill climb to the playoffs. Colin, any early thoughts on this one?
I don't know how anybody could bet a Patriots game. My whole last 20 years, they've been the most consistent team in the league. Now they're a different team every Sunday. I don't know what to make of New England. They were great against Baltimore, very good against Seattle, terrible against San Francisco. Again, they don't have the depth of offensive talent. So if they get nicked up or have a COVID situation, they just don't have any. They don't have any zip. So I would probably take Arizona, but I would avoid this game. I try to avoid inconsistent teams. I don't know what New England is offensively. I just don't know week to week.
Yeah, I try to avoid the unknown. If I don't know enough, like Taysom Hill, I ended up backing off that game. I was on the wrong. I wanted the Saints, but I did take them. And when you look at this Arizona offense, Colin, they love to run the football. Patriots, I think, are 30th against the run this year, and they couldn't stop Deshaun Watson. It looked like Deshaun Watson of old through the air. Can Kyler Murray have a monster game here, get Arizona back in the playoff mix?
I think he can, but I mean, again, Cliff Kingsbury against Belichick. I would take Belichick.
Yeah.
So I said a couple of weeks ago, when Cam Newton faces one of these young running quarterbacks, I think he's kind of motivated in practice. He wants to show everybody that he still has game against like a Kyler and Lamar. So my guess is that Cam plays pretty well, and New England comes back, and it's a much more defensive-minded game than people think. I think it's going to be – New England can only beat you one way. It's got to be in the 20s.
Yeah.
It's got to be in the low 20s. So my guess is New England keeps it close. And, Arizona's the better team.
Yes.
But I wouldn't bet it.
Yeah, that is a tough one. I'm leaning Arizona, but it's still early. All right, let's get to Game 7. Now, Colin, this one is fascinating. Seattle Seahawks travel to the Eagles, another cross-country trip for the Seahawks. I think this is their second or third one of these this season. They are 5.5-point favorites. Now, there was a lot of professional money on the Eagles, Colin, on Sunday. I mean, everybody loaded up on them. The line came down below 3, and they really got blown out. I heard you bashing Carson Wentz today on the herd. I don't know if there's going to be talk about him maybe getting benched this week. I have no idea. But Seattle, big favorite on the road by 5.5. Extra time to prepare. Any early lean here?
I would like Seattle. Here's what's interesting. So Jamal Adams, I thought he and Carlos Dunlap played their best games as Seahawks. And then I thought L.J. Collier, the TCU defensive end, who they drafted number 1 last year in the draft, not the previous draft, the one before that, I thought he had his best game as a Seahawk. So between Collier and Dunlap, they were able to forge a pretty decent pass rush occasionally against Arizona. That bodes very well because Jamal Adams is more linebacker than safety. So that Seattle defense, I thought, I saw signs of, okay, they're generating L.J. Collier and Dunlap are generating a little bit of a pass rush now. And that's always been my thing with Seattle. their secondary is not as bad as you think. It just that you can't cover people for 5.5 seconds.
Yeah.
So I think Seattle, and we have injuries on the Eagle O-line. Keep your eye on Seattle's pass rush. If L.J. Collier, he was a first-round pick, late first round from TCU, didn't do anything his rookie year. But if this is who he is now, keep your eye out because Dunlap is already giving them dividends as a pass rusher in Seattle.
And that's a great analysis because they're going to be coming after Carson Wentz. All he does right now is make mistakes. Wentz with 2 picks, took a safety, sacked 5 times, had a pick 6. And Colin, that's against the Browns without Myles Garrett. I mean, they were all in his face the entire day. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with Wentz. I don't know if it's a mental thing, if he misses Frank Reich, his offensive coordinator, who was so great for him that first season he really blew up. But I don't think the Eagles are bettable right now. I'm sorry. I don't think you can back this team with any.
That's fair. They're not bettable. So I don't think New England's bettable. I don't think the Patriots are a bettable team. I would rather you be bad like the Jaguars or Jets than New England, which has hooked me in every third week.
Yeah. But the Eagles, oddly, are still in first place by half game in the NFC least, although that could change, this weekend. All right, Colin, finally time for Monday Night Football. I love the game tonight. I am financially invested. Looks like the numbers ticked up a little bit since we spoke about this last. Rams on the road, 4.5-point dogs in Tampa. No Andrew Whitworth, as you noted. It sounds like Jalen Ramsey is going to follow around Mike Evans. Again, that could change, but that's going to be a battle to watch. I like Tampa Bay here, but Colin, we did document the Monday night woes of the Bucs last week. They are 0-3 in prime time against the spread this year. They've looked a little lethargic. We know Tom Brady's ancient. He goes to bed at 9 o'clock with the TB12 regimen. Any thoughts here on tonight's game?
Well, I like Tampa. But again, Sean McVay, I'm 6-1 on Ram games. They're very easy to figure out. You'll know by the third drive of the game. If Tampa's struggling to cobble together a run game, Jared Goff's going to struggle. With Goff is throwing on 3rd and short or 2nd and 5, he's very effective. All the play action stuff works for them. If not, then he's just doing straight drops. Nobody's buying into the run game. Right. So if they can't run the football on the left side with Whitworth's absence, this is going to be an average offense against a very talented defense. The part of me thinks bet the under because these are 2 really good defenses.
Yeah.
But my guess is that Tampa will move the football more easily than the Rams will tonight. But we'll know at half because Sean McVay's 31-0 with a lead at half. And if the Rams have a great first half, it's a good sign.
That's a great number. Still no word on Ali Marpet, the great guard of the Bucs. Remember, when he was out last time, Tom Brady was under duress the entire game against New Orleans. He had 3 interceptions, was forcing it. Remember, Ali Marpet would help out on Aaron Donald on the inside. He's their best offensive lineman, according to Pro Football Focus. That would be a big downgrade if he's unable to play. I am on the Bucs with you as well. And we do have a prop bet here, Colin, for Monday Night Football. I think Rob Gronkowski has a game here. I'm looking at Cameron Brate props. I'm looking at Rob Gronkowski. The linebackers are not very good with the Rams, and I think the secondary is going to be focused on the receivers. So I think Gronk to score a touchdown and the Bucs win plus 300. You bet $100, you win 300. I like that bet, and I'm on the Bucs tonight.
I would not bet that because I think the Rams linebackers are active and underrated, and I think the Rams secondary is on fire, is well coached. I love the Rams secondary. I think they got 4 dudes. They didn't even have their safety wrapped last week, and I thought they played great. So I wouldn't take that bet. But $100 is a lot of money.
It's fine. All right, Colin, we got one fan question. We know you got the fans everywhere. They're global. Ivan S. Colin, you've always been one to talk and analyze sports from a gambling viewpoint, but never when it comes to fantasy sports. What's the difference in your mind?
Well, I spent my first 7 years of my career in Vegas. I like the ability to analyze a game, bet it, and win. I think fantasy football rewards points for stuff that I don't think are that valuable. I've just never been turned on by fantasy sports. Nothing against it. But a lot of people like to get into these season-long games, and I get bored with being part of clubs. So I like to analyze a game, see a number, bet a number, and 24 hours later, I can have money in my hand and go out and buy drinks for everybody.
Hey, you can take me out to dinner next time. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Talk the Line. I'll be back with Jeff Schwartz on Wednesday. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you then.